and ultimate extinction, not for nature, but for us. The second view are those who feel that it doesn't matter because God will destroy this earth and make another just for them. And those people, I guess you might call the rapturists. And they, I don't know, I would think they would get points off for being so selfish. There's Christians, and then there's other people who say they're Christians, and what would Jesus say about it will be fun to watch others fry? What do you think about that? The gardeners in the year of the flood are extreme stewardship folk. They do use all recycled materials, which they glean from essentially trash bins. They live in a future society in which corporations and government have essentially become one, thus forming a very top-heavy power structure. I hate to be predictive. And leaving the poorer elements of society to shift for themselves in plebe lands which are essentially lawless. And that is where the gardeners choose to have their rooftop gardens. They garden on rooftops in slums. They grow all of their own food on these rooftop gardens, and they believe that they are creationists. It's just that they do not have the same timeline as literalists. So they do believe that they have a responsibility to the creation. They are vegetarian unless you get really, really hungry. And if you do get really, really hungry, you have to start at the bottom of the animal food chain. I won't go into what that entails, but we may all be driven to it. Let us hope not. They also take a very inclusive view of the creation. We heard a lot about fruits and flowers and, trees and birds and nice things. The gardeners feel they have to include everything, so that they do include mosquitoes. They include everything that lives under the earth as well as the things that live on top of it. And they have to include predators. So they are akin to Blake in that they ask the question, did he who made the lamb make thee? And their answer is a resounding yes. They have their own feast days. They have their own saints. St. Barley Mowat, for instance. St. Robert Burns, saint of interspecies communication for the mice. And some you might expect, such as St. Francis, and some you may not expect because they are from other cultures, but they're very inclusive that way. And they have special feast days honoring all the parts of creation, and this is one of their sermons. It is for Predator Day, and I'll just read you a little bit of that. On Predator Day, we celebrate not God, the loving and gentle father and mother, but God the tiger, or God the lion, or God the bear, or God the wild boar, or God the wolf, or even God the shark. Whatever the symbol, Predator Day is devoted to the qualities of terrifying appearance and overwhelming strength, which, since they are at times desired by us, must also belong to God, as all good things belong to Him. As Creator, God has put a little of Himself into each of His creatures. How could it be otherwise? And therefore the tiger, the lion, the wolf, the bear, the boar, and the shark, or, on the mini scale of things, the water shrew and the praying mantis, are, in their way, reflections of the divine. Human societies through the ages have known this. On their flags and coats of arms, they have not placed prey animals such as rabbits and mice, but animals capable of inflicting death. And when they invoked God as defender, was it not these qualities upon which they called? Thus, on Predator Day, we meditate on the alpha predator aspects of God, the suddenness and ferocity with which an apprehension of the divine may appear to us, our smallness and fearfulness, may I say, our mouse-likeness in the face of such power, our feelings of individual annihilation in the brightness of that splendid light. God walks in the tender dawn gardens of the mind, but he also prowls in its night forests. He is not a tame being, my friends. He is a wild being and cannot be summoned and controlled like a dog. Human beings may well have killed the last tiger and the last lion, but their names are cherished by us. And as we say those names, we hear behind them the tremendous voice of God at the moment of their creation. God must have said to them, "My carnivores, I command you to fulfill your appointed task of culling your prey species, lest these multiply overmuch and exhaust their food supply and sicken and die out. Go forth, therefore, leap, run, roar, lurk, spring, for I delight in your dread hearts, and in the gold and green jewels of your eyes, and in your well-fashioned sinews, and in your scissor teeth, and your scimitar claws, which I myself have bestowed upon you. And I give you my blessing, and pronounce you good." But there is another character in the book who inclines more towards the destructionist model, and his name is Craddock. His idea is destroy the imperfect version of ourselves that we now are, we human beings, and make a better version. People who will never make our mistakes because they have different instincts and capabilities. We have the tools to do this right now. We can already do genetic modification, and we can already make new microbes and alter viruses. I am not the only one to see this as not only a possibility, but as a threat. I like to be cheerful on Sunday mornings. I shall conclude with a quote from Trevor Harriott, who was writing in a book called River in a Dry Land about man and nature on the Canadian prairies. He says, "For the farmers of my grandfather's generation, there was no strong box that could resist the powers that have homogenized and industrialized prairie landscapes. If there ever was such a container, it was the long abandoned ark of our covenant with the land. A religious bond is needed, always has been, whether the people are hunter-gatherers, potato farmers, Shinto, or Christian. A bond maintained by exact ethical guidelines telling how the creation is to be used and honored, which tools and practices sustain land and community, and when to restrict our reach and interdependencies. To that we can only say, thank you."